Hello friends, in this video we will see what is high availability and scalability. High availability means whenever you have an application and you have deployed this particular application onto the cloud, this application is always available. No matter what, there is an event, there is an incident, or there is an outage which has caused the region or a particular data center of the Azure to go down. Even if there is an incident at Azure, the application what you have deployed, it doesn't have any impact. No impact to your application. So you need to deploy your application in such a way that there is no impact whatsoever. So this is called as high availability. So how do you deploy your application with high availability? So how do you deploy a web application as an highly available application? For example, if I have an application which is running with Europe, and also because of high availability, I will also create this particular application in US region. For this, I will use something called as traffic manager. We also know that whenever we use the databases, we can connect to the databases, and also we can create an highly available database. So this will be the primary copy. This will be the read-only copy. This particular traffic manager has the domain. For example, I wanted to create a domain name as learncloudtech.com. So these are my two apps. Whenever user searches or browses for learncloudtech.com, he will hit this traffic manager. The traffic manager itself, it is highly available, and we can check the SLA in the Azure portal based on the geographic location. When a user browses this learncloudtech.com based on the geographic location, the user connection will be either it will be directed to EU region or it will be directed to US region. Since we also have highly available database here, even if one of the region fails, for example, this is in EU region, even if one of the region fails, we have another region to take over. So the traffic manager will be still running. The user queries will be redirected to US. Then this particular read only can be made as primary. Once the EU region comes back, we can fail over back, and again the request can be redirected via EU to the primary database. So this is how we can create the high availability. In case if I wanted to create highly available virtual machines, what I will do is I'll create a virtual machine in availability zone 1, and I'll create virtual machine in availability zone 2. If this is my application tier, then I will also have something called as load balancer. The queries are hit at the load balancer. from the load balancer, because the endpoint is the virtual machine of both the zones, has been added to the load balancer. So this is the backend configuration for the load balancer, and this is the front end configuration at the load balancer. So whenever there is a query hit by the user using this particular IP address, based on the health check, the queries will be redirected either to AZ1 or AZ2. Suppose this particular availability zone 2 is having some outage, then all the queries will be redirected to zone 1. So this is how the IE availability configuration will be done. So it is basically whenever you are creating a design for your architecture, then you use IE availability concept to design your architecture. When it comes to the scalability, there are two types of scalability which is available. One is either you increase, which is called as scale up, or scale down. Let us take example of scale up. If I have a virtual machine which is of 3 gigahertz and 2 GB of RAM, now let me call this as B2 standard. So I am randomly giving name for this virtual machine, size for this virtual machine. If I wanted to increase this particular virtual machine size, I can go to B3, which has 4.8 gigahertz of CPU speed, and I have 8 GB of RAM. So I can increase the size of the virtual machine from moving from B1 to B2 with this size. So this is called as scale up. So in case if I wanted to scale down, if I am already using this size, which is 4.8 gigahertz and 8 GB of RAM, if I wanted to scale down to the B2 to 3.0 gigahertz and 2 GB of RAM, if I so I have to scale down. This is scale up. So scale up is basically increasing your compute CPU speed and the memory and also the disk space. Scale down is your scaling down of the CPU speed, the RAM, and the disk space. There are multiple sizes which are available for the virtual machine. So we can select the size from the series A series, D series, B series, D series, E series. You can scale up or scale down like this. So this is scale up and scale down. There is also another concept of scale out and scaling. In scale out and scale in, what will happen is we have the virtual machine of 4 gigahertz and 8 GB of RAM with 128 GB of disk. In scale out, basically we are adding more number of compute power, which is I am adding one more virtual machine of. So if I take this is as B3 size, so I am adding more virtual machine with the same size. So again, I will add one more virtual machine, 8 GB RAM, 128 GB of disk. So you add multiple of virtual machines like this to scale. Now you have added 4 virtual machines of the same size. Initially it was one virtual machine, then you have added 4 virtual machine, 3 virtual machines. So we have added 1 plus 3 virtual machines. Total 4 virtual machines we have now. In case I wanted to remove 2 of the virtual machine, then if I decrease the number of virtual machine count with 1 virtual machine plus 2 virtual machine, then this is called as scale in. So scale in is basically decreasing the virtual machine count. Scale out is increasing the virtual machine count. So you increase the count here. Here you decrease the count. In scaling. Whereas in scale up and scale down, you are increasing the size of the virtual machine of the same virtual machine. You are not going to add any new virtual machine here, but you are increasing the capacity of the virtual machine by increasing the CPU speed and the RAM for that particular virtual machine which you wanted to scale up. Scale down is decreasing the CPU speed, RAM, and the disk. So that will be scale down.